We now turn our attention to heavyweight boxing. The huge fight scheduled for the 3rd of March 2018. Deontay Wilder against Luis Ortiz for the WBC World Heavyweight title. It will be held at Barclays Center in Brooklyn. And this is a huge fight. I hope nobody's sleeping on this fight. We've just had Groves Eubank. That was a decent fight. Groves defending his title in a 12-round unanimous decision. But now we have a heavyweight contest off in here, and it's a big one. Luis Ortiz, he's been ducked. People have been tried to stay away from him for a long time. He's awkward. He's a southpaw, which a lot of orthodox fighters worry about, a skillful southpaw such as Ortiz. And now he's finally got a shot for the title against one of the leading guys in the division in Deontay Wilder. If you look at the stats alone, they're impressive. They stand alone and impress on their own. You've got Luis Ortiz, 28, 0-0. 28 of those victories, 24 of those victories, by KO. And then on the other side, you've got Deontay Wilder, 39 victories, 38 KOs. 0-0, 38 KOs out of 39 victories. You've got two powerhouses here. You're definitely talking about certainly the top 5 in the division. Some would argue it's the top 3, adding Anthony Joshua. Some might say Parker is in there, but I don't know. For me, these are the top 3 in the division. Obviously, Alexander Povetkin is knocking on the door. And mentioning Povetkin, Wilder was brave enough to take the fight against Povetkin, which Povetkin then had to pull out of or was unable to compete due to a drugs ruling. So Wilder is not afraid. He's a very confident man, and he's happy to step into the ring with Ortiz. When I first thought about the styles of the fight, I thought, Wilder, just looking at him, he looks like he has a bigger range range with his punches. I thought he might be able to at least attempt to keep Ortiz at distance and would maybe be able to capitalise on a reach advantage. But when you actually look at the stats, Ortiz actually has an 84-inch reach. Wilder has an 83-inch reach. You've got Ortiz is listed as being 6'4". Looking at Deontay Wilder now, he's listed as 6'7", so that's probably where I got that assumption from. Wilder looks like the taller man, but when you look at the reach, it's actually Ortiz who has the edge. I'm going to look at the pros and cons of both fighters to start. So let's talk about, firstly, Luis Ortiz. Let's look at his pros. He's a southpaw, he's tricky, he's very measured in his style. He doesn't rush his work, he picks his shots and he waits. He can fight off the back foot. I have seen him in a lot of fights, his most recent fights, where, they haven't been the most entertaining. Obviously, he's just stopped Daniel Martz in one round, but I'm talking about the fights when he was sort of with Matchroom, with Eddie Hearn. He fought the likes of David Allen, he fought Malik Scott. It was unfortunate where Malik Scott in that fight didn't come and fight. He came to run and hide. It was actually a bit of a joke. Ortiz was chasing him around the ring, and Scott was hiding, so it didn't really give Ortiz a chance to show his skills. But it looks as though Ortiz was struggling to find and land something clean. He dispatched David Allen fairly reasonably and fairly quickly. But again, I don't know if it was the most sort of fluent of performances. One of the problems I have with Ortiz is that his record isn't as stellar as Wilder. If you look at his record, it doesn't read as well. As not to say Wilder's is amazing. I think Wilder could have fought a few more, higher ranked people. He was unfortunate the Povetkin one didn't happen through no fault of his own. But his record, to me, it just sits a little bit better than Luis Ortiz. We look at who Ortiz has fought recently. That's Daniel Martz, December 17. I mean, that wasn't a difficult night for him. David Allen, as I mentioned, Malik Scott, who didn't come to fight, but you'd expect him to beat anyway. An old Tony Thompson in March 2016. But I have to say, of his recent performances, that was an impressive performance. Tony Thompson, with those 2 victories over David Price, a veteran. Someone who knows his way around the boxing ring, very experienced, good chin. Ortiz just dispatched him with ease and very skillfully. The left hand that dropped him was heavy. And when Thompson hit the mat, it looked as though he didn't know where he was. Ortiz just proved too much. But you know, the last big challenge he really has was Bryant Jennings. If you look at the record, it looks good. It's a knockout. He stopped him with a big uppercut. I'd say Bryant Jennings is probably the most difficult challenge he's faced in recent times, but that's over 2.5 years ago. So you see what I mean? In recent times, he hasn't really faced a test. He's going to have to make a huge leap in fighting Wilder, who's at the top of the division, and is a defending WBC World Heavyweight Champion. But going back to the positive sides of Ortiz, he's powerful. He's got a tremendous chin. Every time Ortiz gets hit, he doesn't look as though it hurts him. It reminds me a bit of Dorticos, his fellow Cuban, who fought Murat Gassiev the other day, cruiserweight. Gassiev was landing some nasty shots on Dorticos' chin and he didn't flinch. And Ortiz is similar. They're just very tough, very hard. And so a lot of the abuse that Wilder throws at him, he'll be able to absorb. He'll be able to absorb because he's just a strong man. He has a tremendous chin. I think stylistically Ortiz might have an edge here because being the southpaw, being tricky, being well schooled, he's got an extensive amateur background. He turned professional relatively late, and you know that stands in his favour. It's going to be the trickiest night Wilder's ever had in terms of boxing, in terms of working out the riddle of his opponent's offence. Ortiz is very, very well schooled, and I think Wilder's going to have to do his homework if he's going to find Ortiz consistently and dispatch him easily. I don't think it'll be an easy fight. We've roughly gone over Ortiz's cons already. He hasn't had great competition, as I've said. Bryant Jennings over 2 years ago. I mean, his age is a factor as well. If we look at the ages, Luis Ortiz is listed as being born in March 79. Some people have disputed that. Some people have said that he's actually older and he's doctored his documents or something. I can't comment on that, and I'm not going to. I'm just going to say that's what some people say. It says born 1979, so that would have him, where would he be, 30 or 38, 39? Wilder, certainly the younger man, should have a little bit more fitness there, maybe a little bit more endurance. If we look at his age, he's born in 85, so he's going to be, 32, 33, so age advantage definitely on Wilder's side. It is heavyweight though, you can be a bit more lenient with age at heavyweight. The last thing that goes is your punch, obviously, and at heavyweight, endurance isn't the biggest factor. We've had George Foreman come back in his 40s and win the title against Michael Moore all those years ago. There are a history of older fighters at heavyweight, but I just think in this case Wilder, that age factor, the way they stand the ages will help him a little bit more, will stand in his favour. I would also say Wilder's probably been linked with and been involved in, big stage fights. The fight for Ortiz against Jennings was fairly big, but I think Wilder's probably been in bigger contests. We've also, I've had an interview with Bryant Jennings, who was actually saying he said Ortiz was powerful, but he didn't think that it was, he was vastly powerful. He said he was knocked out in I think it was the 6th or 7th round by an uppercut. But he said had he taken it earlier on, it wouldn't have been a problem. He said it was how it was delivered and the stage and the fight it came in the middle of the fight that was the reason it put him down. I don't know whether it's sour grapes. I'm just reporting something Bryant Jennings has said, so there's something that we'll take into consideration. So that's Luis Ortiz in a nutshell. I hope I've done him justice. He's a really skillful boxer. His age doesn't help him. His level of competition doesn't help him, but he's a stiff test. Nobody wanted to fight him. It's taken him ages to land this fight. Not because he didn't want it, but because no one wanted to fight him. I think they might have had an argument in the fact that he might not have had the following to generate big numbers, so people use that as an excuse. I remember Tyson Fury I'm not saying Tyson Fury's making an excuse, it's a point Tyson Fury made. He said he brings all his fans from the UK. He's a showman, but then in terms of booking a fight against Ortiz, he said, who's Ortiz going to bring? Is he going to bring a large group of fans to the table to help sell tickets and pay-per-view? He wasn't so sure. I think Ortiz's profile has been helped by being promoted, in different parts of the world. He's, been promoted by Matchroom in the UK. Now he's promoted he was promoted in the US before, now he's back in the US being promoted, so he should have, been sold out to a wide range of people, and that'll help him bring some numbers to this particular fight. Let's go to Deontay Wilder. Let's look at his pros. He's young, he's athletic, he's very confident. I think that's a factor. I've also got to say Luis Ortiz is extremely confident as well. If you look at his body language, his grasp of English isn't that great, but whenever he does speak, whenever he's drawn into a situation, press conference or whatever, he does have his say, whether it's through a translator or whatever, and you can look at the body language and see that he's someone who doesn't doubt himself. He believes in himself. But Wilder, certainly hugely confident. He's listed as saying he's going to bless Luis Ortiz. He said Luis Ortiz was blessed by God to get this opportunity again to fight him, as I think it was booked before, and I think it might have been drug issues again. Something happened with Ortiz's drug testing, and he didn't fight initially. So Wilder's point is he's been blessed again by God to get this opportunity to fight him again. And Deontay Wilder says he's going to bless Luis Ortiz in the ring with a beating, as far as he's concerned. But Wilder, powerful, big puncher. No one has a record with 38 knockouts out of 39 wins without being a big puncher. Huge right hand, massive, devastating. I remember when he was throwing bombs at Audley Harrison all those years ago. Stopped Audley Harrison, and the biggest punches were actually the ones that missed. He threw some helicopter shots after Audley had basically given up, but the power behind them was vast. The thing for him, he's got to land them, and against someone like Ortiz fighting off the back foot, well schooled, it isn't going to be easy to just land a right hand on the chin. So he's going to have to think about that, how he's going to set the shots up and come in. He has got a jab on him, but he's probably going to have to use it. He's going to have to set Ortiz up to deliver that right hand. So hopefully he's done his homework. If he hasn't, he's going to have trouble landing that. And Ortiz throws an awful lot back with power and interest. So it could be a difficult night if he hasn't done his preparation. The cons of Wilder. He got staggered by Molina. He had a fight against, was it Eric Molina? I think it went the distance or very late. I'd have to look that up to check that, but it certainly went past the 8th round against Eric Molina. It says KO here, looking at the record. So it's a late stoppage, I'm assuming. Yeah, it's a late stoppage against Molina. But during that fight, Molina staggered him. So that shows the chin of Wilder can be penetrated. I don't know if we have much evidence of Ortiz being shaken. Certainly Brian Jennings put a few good shots in on him and he didn't flinch. There was one big shot to the body where both men actually, there's a lot of movement. I think they bounced back from each other. It was such a big shot from Jennings, but Ortiz, he didn't flinch. So, I don't know if we've got much record of Ortiz taking heavy leather. Coming back to that stat there, Wilder and Molina, it was a KO in round 9. But as I said, during that fight, Molina staggered him. There is footage of Wilder at amateur level going down, getting staggered and then going down. Of course, that's amateur level. He's improved. He's had 39 professional fights since then. So I don't want to put too much strength on that, but I'm just making the point that at some point in his career, he has, hit the canvas. But we're not going to take that into consideration too much. We'll actually look at the professional form. But that's just something I thought I'd mention. So, that's a rough overview. Let's take a look at the betting, because we want to talk about value and we want to talk about who actually is going to win the fight. If we look at the odds, the best available, Deontay Wilder 2-5, so that's 1.4. Luis Ortiz, you can get 21-10, so in excess of 2-1. And the draw 40-1. We won't worry about the draw. I don't think there's going to be a draw at heavyweight. My suspicion is if Ortiz is going to win, I think he's going to have to stop Wilder, because Wilder's got that work rate whereby if it goes to points, I could see him outlasting Ortiz, being the younger man, just being a great athlete. Tyson Fury always talks about what a tremendous athlete Deontay Wilder is. Well, not in a complimentary sense. He's usually calling him a basketball player, saying he's an athlete rather than a boxer. But you can look at him and see he's in tremendous condition. Always stays in good shape, and he's a tremendous athlete. So if it goes a distance, I would have thought he would be able to have a better work rate, land more shots, and possibly get a points victory. So a bet on Ortiz. I think the value goes with Ortiz. There's no doubt about it. My odds, if I was setting the odds for it, I would have Wilder as the favourite. Either can knock each other out, but if it goes to points, I'd give the edge to Wilder. I would have Wilder 4-7 as a favourite, not 2-5. Luis Ortiz is 2-1. I think he could have been a bit shorter than that. The value is for Ortiz. If you're a value better, you've got to look towards Luis Ortiz. Is it a 50-50 fight? I'd have it sort of 55-45 in Wilder's favour. So, I'm not sure if I'd go 60-40. They've got very different styles, so there's a riddle for Wilder to work out. It's all very well him being in better shape and younger and being a tremendous athlete, but he's got to find a way to get to Ortiz. He's got to find a way to set up his shots, and Ortiz is not an easy puzzle to fix. He stands on his back foot. He picks his shots. He doesn't. He can come on the inside. We saw that against Jennings. He does make it hard on the inside. I think that might even be a mistake for Ortiz. If he tries to rough him up on the inside, he can land shots. But Wilder has an engine on him, and I've seen Wilder is the sort of guy who likes to return fire. If he takes a few shots, he'll give a flurry back, and I think he's just got the fitness to provide sterner, more fervent retaliation than Ortiz. So that could be a danger. But, Ortiz can mix it up both sides, on the outside and on the inside. So, it's going to be a stiff examination. When I looked at this fight and thought about it, I thought of Dorticos against Gassiev recently in the World Boxing Super Series at cruiserweight. Dorticos is a Cuban, like Ortiz. He's got a winning warrior mentality, like Ortiz. He's extremely confident, like Ortiz. He's well schooled, like Ortiz. He lands big shots, like Ortiz. And then, in that fight on the other side, you had Gassiev. In this one, you've got Wilder. Both big punchers, both people with tremendous fitness, both with age on their side. Gassiev was a much younger man than Dorticos. He was very young, Gassiev. I think he's 23 or 24. It's unbelievable. World champion. Dorticos was not an old man, but around 30. So he had the age advantage, which does help. And it's similar in Wilder Ortiz. I can just see it going that way. That was a tremendous fight. Dorticos gave a great account of himself, but in the end, Gassiev just seemed to have that little bit more. Maybe it was the age, maybe it was the fitness, maybe it was the power. And I see a similar kind of arrangement with Wilder and Ortiz. It's a similar situation. So I could see a late stoppage or points win for Wilder. That's not based on value. As I've said before, I think this is the value is with Ortiz. There's no doubt about it. So you've got to decide whether you're going to bet for the win or whether you're going to bet on value. If you're betting on Wilder, you're not getting value. 2-5 is not value. There's no way Wilder should really be any shorter than 1-2. I would say 4-7, maybe even a touch more. So you've got to think about what perspective you're betting from. I'm going to go with Wilder. This reminds me of my selection with George Groves and Eubank, where I disregarded value completely. I said Groves was the value, but I'm going to go for the win bet, and the win is Eubank, even though the betting odds aren't value. And I got served because Eubank was beaten by Groves on points, and I was found to be unable to find a way to win, deal with Groves' experience. And, Groves stood back a lot and tried to, which is fair enough, he has a bigger reach. He's got a very long jab, and let Eubank come to him and kind of just picked him off and out-strategized him. But yeah, my selection here will be similar to that selection. I'm going to go just for the win. I think it might be points. I think it might be a late stoppage. Deontay Wilder at 2-5. Please give me your comments. It's a tremendous fight. People must have opinions on this. You've got Ortiz, hugely skilled, left-hander, southpaw from Cuba. Feared man, feared opponent against Wilder, the big bomber, the bronze bomber. Talking big, swinging big, landing big, KO merchant. It's going to be great. Please give your comments, like and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you next time.